All right, it's still morning, so good morning, everybody. I'm Gabe Cummings, and I'm with Working Landscapes. And we are a nonprofit based in Warren County, North Carolina, just a little bit east here. And I'm going to talk to you about our work over the past few years on growing a small food hub in Warren County and building regional food value chains that connect folks across our region in northeastern North Carolina. And next slide. That's the outline of Warren County, in case you don't have that memorized already. An outline that should be familiar to everyone, but it isn't. So anyway, that's Warren County. Our vision for Warren County is a Warren County that has a working landscape. That's the concept behind our name. A landscape that works and a landscape in which people can find work. And this involves interconnecting vibrant farms, forest lands, waterways, and small towns. So our vision is a whole landscape vision. We pursue that in a number of ways, but the primary one is through developing the regional, working in our way to develop the regional food economy of our region. Next. Carry on. That's me and my better half, Carla. We co-founded Working Landscapes. Carla's actually from Warren County. That's her farm that we're on. I just married in, as they say. And you can see how youthful we look in this picture. This was taken before we tried to develop a regional food hub in Warren County, so just saying, a little more gray around the edges now. So previously I worked as the county's economic development director and also as a researcher at Duke University. And because you need about 3 businesses to make one living in Warren County, I also have a small consulting business and real estate development firm. So, you know, we do what we have to. All right, next. So Working Landscapes has developed a small food hub in Warrenton. A food hub, I think you're already familiar, it's already been mentioned today, is basically a way of connecting farmers to consumers. We're aggregating product from multiple farmers and serving consumers through a variety of markets. Given our landscape-based approach, our way of doing that was to repurpose existing buildings in the heart of our small town in Warrenton. And so we actually have 2 facilities that comprise the food hub. One is the produce center, and I'll describe some of what we do there. That's a produce processing facility located on the site of a former cotton gin and flour mill. So it's a former agricultural facility that tried to bring back into agriculture in this way. The other is a Main Street commercial building that houses what we call the Main Street Kitchen. It's a small-scale shared-use kitchen, sort of like what PFAB is doing, but on a much smaller scale for food entrepreneurs in our area. So at the Produce Center, we have a project called the Chop Produce Initiative, and this is a primarily farm-to-school project. It's a farm-to-institution project. It covers the whole value chain from farm to table within that, and so it has 4 primary components. First is working, I guess I could press this for myself, couldn't I? There you go. Be independent. Anyway, it involves working closely with farmers. We help farmers attain GAP certification, which is a requirement for schools and lots of institutional markets. That's Good Agricultural Practices certification, and get them into growing collards, cabbage, and kale. They can grow anything they want as long as it's collards, cabbage, or kale, because that's what we use in this project. So then that product is brought to our produce center where it is chopped and bagged. We have a facility designed for the chopping and bagging of produce. Those fresh cut greens are then delivered through distributor partners region-wide, primarily to schools and some other institutions as well. We also work in schools to help kids learn and become aware of healthy local eating, because we want to develop a generation of healthy local consumers. We think that's an important part of value chain work, so we do that as well. This has very much been a collaborative venture. We started the venture off with 3 local farms that are listed there. Cooperative Extension has been a key partner. The school district, because as I mentioned, this is a farm-to-school project that has a farm-to-school product. We work closely with our local school district to develop that product. and the Warren County government has been a partner with us all the way. We've received funding from a variety of sources to develop the hub, including federal, state, and private foundation support, which we're very, very grateful for. In terms of impacts, this is just looking at the last couple of years. We've been developing this project gradually since 2013. Just to look at 2016-17, we purchased, for the Chopped Produce Initiative, we purchased about 90,000 pounds of produce from local farms or regional farms, which is very small for the scale of a food hub, but it does what we need to do for this operation. Though we are looking to, in the coming year, we're hoping to actually quadruple our production. That's our goal. But at this point, this is where we're at. That translates to about 230,000 servings of local greens for kids in schools across 12 districts that we've served during that time frame. We've served 29 farmers through the hub during this time period, which primarily means connecting them to new markets in a variety of ways. That's not just through the Chopped Produce project, but through all the services that our hub offers to farmers. A couple of them got GAP certified as part of that support. And this work, and in addition, as I mentioned, we worked in schools to educate about 1,600 kids about healthy local eating. We've created or retained 15 jobs in the county through this work, and in addition to that, helped 9 woman-owned food ventures launch or grow through the shared use kitchen. I also added that we've hosted 63 community and arts events at the Food Hub because we see this as about bringing people together too. It's not just about transacting food. A food hub can be also a social experience. So the way forward, I think hopefully this sets up for Mike nicely too. We are very interested in advancing the coordinated development of regional food systems. We think it has to be thought about at the regional scale, and that's something that Eric already hit upon. We have the same situation that PFAB has, is that people come to Warren County, want to learn how to do what we're doing and do the exact same thing. And we often say, thanks, but please don't, because we need to, we encourage people to consider the regional impact of their project, right? So often these projects, including ours and most others in the local food space, were conceived out of a local motivation, right? There's something in your community that you want to address by doing a local food project. So you start to develop something and work on something, but that project is going to have an impact beyond the local area. It has to. I mean, we have to work regionally in order for our project to be a success, and I would dare say that most others would have to work at least regionally in order to make these food infrastructure projects in particular viable. I'm particularly talking about processing, not introducing too much redundant processing, but instead complementary processing. Let's think about having different types of ventures that can work together. Then we can have productive interchange and commerce across the region where different ventures are fitting in different pieces of that puzzle and working together to jointly serve larger markets. And that's sort of what this little conceptual graphic suggests, is that there might be multiple food hubs in our region, which in turn are linked to distributors, farms, of course, and a variety of customers and markets. So that's where we think it needs to go. We're very privileged and happy to play a small part in moving toward this, and glad to take questions.
How many school districts are you working in? Are they sort of clustered your way, kind of northeast?
Right, so as I mentioned, across 2016-17, we served a dozen school districts. It fluctuates because we are not a distributor, and so we are dependent on where distribution routes go to connect us to school districts. So they aren't necessarily geographically clustered the way you might logically think, because it actually depends on where the distributor goes, not just who's closest, right? So sometimes we can serve a more, I mean, this past year we served some greens to Gaston County. That's in the Charlotte area, because there was a distributor connection there, right? But we sometimes can't figure out how to serve greens to a neighboring county because the distribution connection isn't there. So this is something that you learn when you're developing regional food systems, that it's not actually just necessarily who's your neighbor, but what's the link between you and that market. So this is definitely a lesson learned, and one of the reasons that I would say that our growth has been fairly slow is that essentially we've had to rebuild supply chains every year, because school districts, for example, our primary customer, rebid vendor contracts every year. So you can be all set up and everything's going great with a bunch of school districts, and then next year you can't reach any of those school districts. Another reason that's a challenge is that in a small rural county such as ours, it's difficult to convince a distributor to come there at all. So you have to have a distributor who A, will come to you, and B, also goes to the customer that you want to reach, right?
So they do come to you to pick up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we don't distribute, so they need to. But that limits us at this point. Yeah.
I understand that your organization is a not-for-profit, but in the initial stages, did you and your wife have to self-fund at all?
Well, yes, and you could argue that we continue to sort of subsidize it. But I mean, that Main Street commercial development that I described, actually, the building redevelopment project, which actually Carter Council of Governments was a partner on, thanks Diane, continues to be, was a downtown redevelopment project that predated the existence of Working Landscapes by several years. So we undertook that as a private venture. Working Landscapes uses a piece of that project for a part of the food hub. But yeah, there's a variety of, I mean, every possible kind of resource that we can lay hands on has come into this in one way or another, including our own, yes.